You're listening to PetLifeRadio.com.
Hi, pet parents. This is Michelle Fern, host of Best Bets for Pets on PetLifeRadio.com. Okay, cat lovers, cat parents, this is the show for you. I'm going to talk about something near and dear to our hearts when we have felines in our home or feline parents. Stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss this. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back, right after these messages. Stay tuned.
Petco, where the pets go. Petco, where the pets go.
Pet Life Radio has tail-wagging, fur-flying, fabulous deals for our listeners from Petco. Get $6 off your order of $60 or more and up to 40% off the entire Petco site. That's right, but that's not all. Because you're a Pet Life Radio listener, you'll also get free shipping on your order of $49 or more. $6 off, up to 40% off, and free shipping from Pet Life Radio and Petco. To get these awesome deals, go to PetcoDeals.com. That's PetcoDeals.com.
Petco, where the pets go.
I'm not much of a reader, but I do wish I were more well-read.
There are so many great books coming out. I wish I could find a way to keep up.
Audible.com makes it easy to stay well informed and catch up on your reading simply by listening. Audiobooks from Audible turn downtime into uptime. You'll be more productive and become well read.
Now I'm able to catch up on all the great books I've been wanting to read.
With Audible, I feel smarter.
Pet Life Radio listeners, try Audible.com now and get your first 30 days of Audible Listener Gold membership plan free. And get a free audiobook. Choose from over 100,000 titles. To get this great deal, go to audibledeals.com. That's audibledeals.com.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back, everyone. I want to introduce Dr. Brent Mayabb. He is the Manager of Education at Royal Canin. Welcome, Dr. Brent.
Thank you. I'm glad to be with you.
I'm so excited to have you on. One of the things that I get a lot of inquiries about is with cats, their system seems to be a little more sensitive. And I've had a lot of people inquire about, a lot of my listeners inquire about, what do they do if their cats are prone to crystals in the urine or bathroom problems? And then I want to tell you briefly about my own unfortunate experience. My feline boy, Dennis, he's a stray that adopted me because I'm really a dog person. I became a cat person, and he's a mama's boy. So maybe he thinks it's because I rule in the household. I don't know, but he's a mama's boy. And when I came home from the Global Pet Expo, it looked like I thought it was maybe an anal gland thing or something. I mean, see, I'm a dog person, so that's what I thought it was. And he was having bathroom problems. So I thought it was maybe a little thing. And it turned out that he had crystals in the urinary area, blocked him, and he had to have 2 surgeries. Basically, he became a Denise. So it was expensive, unfortunate, scary, because he almost didn't make it twice. And I want to tell my listeners about this so that they're aware, maybe they can avoid this. And I know that Royal Canin has a wonderful food that helps keep the crystals out of his diet. It makes it much better for him. So can you tell our listeners a little about, maybe in a better way than I did, about what happened to my cat and how Royal Canin food helps keep the problem away?
Sure. I'm really sorry to hear about Dennis. I mean, this is something, though, that, as you mentioned, is not terribly uncommon. I mean, we see this a lot of times with cats, and I know when I was in private practice, I saw a lot of cats for this issue, and it seems like, when male cats are affected, they're affected actually a little more adversely because of their anatomy. So, and it's, something that kind of struck me funny what you said is that you're a dog person until Dennis came along. I myself, I'm a cat person, and I love cats, and I always tell people who say, well, I'm more of a dog person, I'm not really a cat person. I always tell them that's because you haven't met the right cat yet, but once you do, you'll become a cat person too. So it looks like Dennis did that for you. But what's going on is that in the urine of some cats, crystals begin to form out, and it can be very problematic. I mean, when it starts, some of the signs that, a pet parent may notice is blood in the urine or maybe some difficulty urinating. Sometimes, they may vocalize when they're in the litter box and to urinate. Sometimes they start going to the bathroom in inappropriate places. And, any of those signs, my advice is definitely call your veterinarian immediately, because we may have an issue with the lower urinary tract. One of the common issues that we see is exactly what you said, though. It's forming crystals in the urinary tract. And so you can think of these crystals, they're microscopic at first, and so you can't see them with the naked eye, but they're forming out in the urine. And if they continue to form, the crystals will aggregate together, and eventually they can even form stones. And some stone types actually have to be removed surgically. Some stones can be dissolved. It depends on the stone type. But what we see, unfortunately, a lot of time with male cats is because of their anatomy, the way things are shaped down there, they actually form a plug, and then they can't urinate at all. And that is a medical emergency, because essentially they've got a blockage, and if we don't relieve that blockage very quickly, it can result in death.
Exactly, because that's what happened, because we thought it was something simple, and it wasn't. And you're right, because the anatomy down there is so small. You're right, I did meet the right cat, by the way. He's like a dog. He has 2 dog brothers. He thinks he's very dog-like of a cat, from the cats I know. He's just very sweet. He's really sweet. But he was, having problems urinating, and then he was vocalizing with his, like kind of a rah-rah, kind of, not the happy meows or I'm hungry now meows. And so we took him in to be looked at. They didn't do much. That was a few $100. Then he had to go to the vet, and they tried to do it without removing anything. And he still wasn't urinating enough on his own. So they actually had to remove the urethra, I believe, so that he was able, didn't bother him any, but he was able to then to, urinate on his own. And he's fully recovered. He's healthy. He's back to his old mischievous ways. Because we call him Dennis, because Dennis the Menace. It's an old cartoon, not cartoon, it's an old TV show for your listeners that don't know. And this was a little boy who always got into mischievous situations. Not mean or anything, but just mischievous. And that's Dennis. He's just mischievous. So, but thank God he's back to everything, because you're right. They told me that if he... Well, of course you're right. You're Dr. Brent, but he told me that if they don't alleviate it, it can result in death, because if they can't urinate, the potassium levels rise, and that can result in death if it's not taken care of. So he had to have 2 surgeries back to back. It was like a few thousand. So expensive, but even scarier is they weren't sure. He was almost at the vet for a week. They weren't sure if he was going to make it. But he had a full recovery, thank goodness. And so a shout out to Dr. Campbell and his staff who took great care of him. And it was, and then they told me to go on the special Royal Canin food, which will alleviate future problems. Now, what causes these stones?
Well, what happens is that, a cat's urine is fairly concentrated normally. And if you think about it, cats, originally they are desert creatures. And so their body is really set up to conserve water. So that means that their urine is going to be fairly concentrated. And in some cats, because a lot of mineral material can be eliminated just sort of as the normal process through the urine, in some cats too much minerals or too many minerals are going out into the urine, and they may start to kind of hook up with each other and form into little crystals, and then ultimately turn into stones. So one of the ways that our product, the Royal Canin Veterinary Diet Urinary SO, actually helps prevent this is it actually has a controlled mineral intake for the cat. Now, the minerals are in the diet for a reason. There's a nutritional need for the minerals, so you don't you need something like a mineral-free diet. That's not at all the case. But instead, you want to make sure you give the cat what they need nutritionally, but don't give, more than that because, for those cats who are stone formers, they're just going to release it into the urine and then it may potentially form a stone. A second way that it works that is really kind of cool is that it actually, helps them to drink more water. Now, if you or I, if we had this same sort of medical problem and we went to our doctor, he or she would say, you need to drink more water. You need to make sure you keep your urine dilute. And it's trying to have, the opposite effect of what I was saying cats naturally do. Well, you can tell your cat to drink more water, but, he's going to do what he wants to do either way. And certainly there are things like fountains and those sorts of things that may encourage drinking, and I think those are all great ideas, and they certainly help as well. But what this diet does is it has some additional sodium. So the additional sodium, just like if you or I go to the theater and, order the popcorn, we're going to drink more soda. The additional sodium in the diet helps stimulate thirst in the cat, so the cat drinks more. And when the cat drinks more, then there's going to be more urine made, and that urine's going to be more dilute. So the final thing that it does is it helps control the pH for a certain stone type. Not all stones are pH dependent, but one type is called a struvite stone. And so kind of works in three ways. We control the minerals that go into the cat to begin with to prevent stone formation. We stimulate thirst to dilute the urine, and then we make sure that the pH is right to prevent the struvite stone.
And you know what's interesting? My cat does drink water. I know that some
Really?
cats hardly ever do. He was on a wet and dry food diet, and he still is, but with Royal Canin now. And he did drink water before. He drinks it now. I don't know if he drinks more now, but he drank water. So that's what's unusual about it.
Yeah, to me that would suggest that perhaps, he was putting quite a bit more mineral into his urine if his urine was already a fairly, good turnover through him. Because you're right, there are a lot of cats who don't drink a lot at all. My own personal cat, she drinks a lot as well. So I feel kind of fortunate too because we haven't had to battle any issue like this.
It's definitely scary. Now, what types of food does Royal Canin have for this type? Now, people can go on, they can move their cats over to the Royal Canin food for this issue prior to it, and it will help alleviate possibilities of this issue. How would that work?
Well, basically, this is one of our therapeutic diets that's sold exclusively through veterinarians because this is a medical problem. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that, that if someone sees these signs that we talked about, difficulty urinating, blood in the urine, pain on urination, that they see their vet immediately. And as you said, in many cases, it is exactly an emergency. So, call the veterinarian, and then the veterinarian will, take a look at the cat and then probably look at the urine as well and try to make a diagnosis from there. And if it's, the diagnosis of having, certain stone types, struvite or calcium oxalate, or what those two stone types we're talking about are called, then the veterinarian will then put the cat on this type of food. So it is a veterinary exclusive product, and the veterinarian needs to, make the diagnosis in this to be able to use it because, if the cat doesn't have this problem, no, we don't really recommend it as a preventative per se, because there are some cats who are just, their system on the opposite of this is not set up to form stones, and so they really don't need it. So for us at Royal Canin, nutrition is always about being the most specific that we can. And so we want to feed, a cat who may have a medical problem. We've got a lot of diets for help with those sorts of therapies, but for otherwise healthy cats, we make diets for healthy cats. And we'd probably say for a cat who doesn't have this problem, we'd want you to consider one of those diets for healthy cats, not so much this particular diet as a preventative. But for the cats that do have, crystals or stones in the bladder or another disease called cystitis, we would recommend the urinary SO, but we want the veterinarian to be sure to make the diagnosis before that.
Okay, great suggestion. Now, I know that for the urinary SO, there's wet and dry food. Mm-hmm. Why are there no treats? My cat, I have two dogs. When they get treats, my cat wants a treat. There's no treats.
Right. That is an excellent question. And we get that question a lot. And the answer is because when we look at this situation, again, what we're trying to do is we're trying to control the mineral intake into this cat. And so, any sort of outside treat, could potentially throw that off. Some of these cats that have this problem of forming stones, once we get them on the urinary SO, we've got them balanced to where they're no longer forming. But this balance, because of the cat's physiology, is so delicate, and everything has to be so precise that as much as it sounds, like it wouldn't be a problem, sometimes even treats will kind of push them back over into stone formation. So what we recommend is, although we don't make a specific treat for that, is we recommend for those cats who really are, like to have treats or to be rewarded, that sort of thing, is to take some of the dry kibble itself and just put it in a treat jar and, to use that as sort of the treat.
Yeah, I tried that. Dennis is smart. He's not buying it.
He's smart.
That's what I was thinking, because I remember asking my vet, Dr. Campbell, if there's a treat, and he said maybe I could make them up. They don't really make any of them. So you should have a urinary SO treat for cats.
Well, maybe one day we'll be able to, but with a lot of these guys, it's so delicate to balance. I mean, we're just not able to give them anything extra.
Now, I heard rumors with different things. People will say, sometimes giving them, fish will do it or something else. Is there anything in particular that causes these crystals and, and stones, or is it just the minerals adding up in their system?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's probably more specific to the individual cat in the sense that their system is really, in some cats, is really set up to form these stones, and in other cats, not at all. And so a cat who might be, predisposed to forming stones, and a cat who's not, you feed them both the same diet, one of the cats is going to form stones, the other one is not going to be able to form stones. So I wouldn't necessarily call out any individual thing. Now, there are certainly certain things that are high in the mineral content, and you could say definitely if you've got a cat who's going to form stones, there's things that could exacerbate that, but nothing that I could say, across the board, you always want to make sure you avoid this or, anything like that.
Okay, great. This has been so informative. Where can our listeners that want to do a little more research on this subject, where can they find out more information?
The first place I would say always is talk to your veterinarian. These are veterinary exclusive products, so he or she would have some information, be able to talk to you a little bit more, particularly if there is, a real concern, because now that, we're talking about this, maybe it brings to mind someone saw their cat acting a little unusual around the litter box, perhaps. So the veterinarian will be the first place to find it. And then for, any information that Royal Canin provides sort of in general, not necessarily for just this diet, but just in general, is our website is www.royalcanin.us.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Dr. Brent, for coming on Best Pets for Pets and telling our listeners, especially all the cat parents out there, about, all this great information and things to be aware of, and educating us on crystals in the urine with cats, which is so much more common than anybody probably realizes.
Well, thank you for having me on, and continued best wishes for you and Dennis.
Yep, Dennis is good. He's, like I said, thank goodness. It was scary for a while, but he's back to his old Dennis self. Thank you so much, Dr. Brent, for coming on Best Pets for Pets and telling our listeners all about how to be a better cat parent, listening out for those little meows that seem to be a cry out for something other than I want food or change my litter box right now. I'd like to give a special thank you to my vet, Dr. Campbell, and his fantastic staff who took great care of Dennis when he was there at their hospital. Dennis had to have 2 back-to-back scary surgeries, and the staff was wonderful. And thank goodness, Dennis is doing fine. He's back to being his Dennis mischievous self, and I'm so glad about that. I'd like to give a special thanks also to Mr. Z and Nikki, who took good care of watching over their brother while he was getting better. And thanks to my producer, Mark Winner, for making me and my guests sound great. Thank you so much for listening.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.
Dyson.
The new Dyson Animal Vacs are powerful bagless upright vacuums for homes with pets. Air muscle and radio root cyclone technology generates the strongest suction power to powerfully remove dust, dirt, and pet hair from the home or car. To order your Dyson Animal Vac, go to DysonDeals.com. DysonDeals.com to order your Dyson Animal Vac today.
Dyson, music to your ears.